Welcome to the Midnight Burn. Tonight's episode is going to be different, very different, and I need you to watch until the end, because what I'm about to share will challenge everything you think you know about America's most beloved country music icon. Picture this. A man stands on stage before thousands of screaming fans. The lights shine down on his cowboy hat, his acoustic guitar gleaming under the spotlights. He's sold more albums than almost any artist in history, over 1,000 tour dates, a household name that spans generations. But what if I told you that behind those bright lights and that charming smile lies something far darker? Garth Brooks. The name alone conjures images of heartland America, family values and songs that touch the soul. But in 1999, at the absolute peak of his career, something strange happened. Something that would make even Stephen King raise an eyebrow. Brooks didn't just create an alter ego for marketing purposes. No, this went deeper, much deeper. Enter Chris Gaines, supposedly a sex-addicted Australian rocker, scarred in a car accident, with a completely different voice, accent, and personality. But here's where it gets unsettling. When Brooks transformed into Gaines, he never broke character, not once. Think about that for a moment. Professional actors drop their roles between takes. Method actors eventually come home to themselves, but Garth Brooks? He created an entire documentary about Chris Gaines as if this fictional person had lived and breathed. He gave interviews in full character, complete with Australian accent and tragic backstory. Is this artistic dedication or something else entirely?
The persona of Chris Gaines.
Yes, that's who
Remember
it was.
Chris Gaines?
Yep.
You pull up Chris Gaines. Look at the photos of Garth Brooks as Chris Gaines. And by the way, he did a whole documentary as Chris Gaines.
Isn't Chris Gaines a gay guy?
No, Chris Gaines is a sex addict from.
He looks gay.
So Chris Gaines is supposedly a sex addict who was scarred in a car accident. He's from Australia. He speaks with an Australian accent. And when Garth Brooks is interviewed or speaks and he's dressed up as Chris Gaines, he never breaks. It's a complete persona.
This is known that Garth Brooks is Chris Gaines, right?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. But I mean, listen, there's a whole behind the music, documentary about Chris Gaines, as if he's a real person.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is Garth Brooks.
Right.
He got a special makeup
Steve, find us
artist
some
to come
fun
in.
stuff on this guy. Find us some.
What started as internet jokes from podcast fans became something far more compelling when someone decided to dig deeper. The theory was simple. What if someone mapped every single one of Garth Brooks' tour dates against missing persons reports and unsolved homicides? Sounds crazy, right? But stay with me. A dedicated researcher spent months compiling data, not just tour dates, but every Grammy ceremony, every Billboard award show, every place Brooks had ever lived or performed. Over 1,000 locations spanning more than 2 decades. The results? 120 missing persons cases and roughly 90 unsolved homicides that coincided with Brooks's whereabouts. Now, before you dismiss this as coincidence, consider this. The researcher didn't just throw every case into the pile. They eliminated anything that clearly didn't fit. Gang violence, cases where witnesses described completely different suspects. Anything that logic could explain away. What remained was chilling.
You're gonna get to taste that in a minute. You're gonna actually make this along with me. And
Oh, I am?
Yeah, you're gonna do what I do.
Oh, this is not going to be good.
Let's start at the beginning. When Brooks attended college in Oklahoma, a female student from the same university was murdered. Her apartment just a few miles from his. Did they know each other? Did they share classes? We may never know. But the pattern was just beginning. Brooks moves to Nashville with dreams of stardom, working at a boot barn while trying to make it big. During his time there, 3 people connected to that area went missing. 3 souls who simply disappeared. Is this coincidence? Or is something more sinister at play? As Brooks began touring the state fair circuit, the pattern continued. Small towns across America, venues where a rising star would play to modest crowds. And in these places, people began disappearing. The researchers used a methodical approach, mapping exact distances from concert venues to crime scenes. Most fell within a 2 to 5 mile radius, close enough for a perpetrator staying near the venue, close enough to matter. But here's where the story takes its most disturbing turn. When Garth Brooks received his first major paycheck, roughly $500,000, he made a choice that defies all logic. This was a man who had been struggling, working retail, barely scraping by for years. What would you do with your first taste of real wealth? Buy a nice house, a luxury car, live a little after years of poverty? Brooks did none of these things. Instead, he spent nearly every penny on 30 acres of raw, undeveloped land in Goodlettsville, just outside Nashville. Empty land, isolated land. And what happened shortly after this purchase? Missing persons reports in the area spiked dramatically. Some researchers have drawn parallels to John Wayne Gacy, the notorious serial killer who buried his victims beneath his house. Gacy himself once said, "I should never have been convicted of anything more serious than running a cemetery without a license." Could Brooks's vast property serve a similar purpose? The land is isolated, private, perfect for someone who needs to dispose of evidence. Perhaps most telling is what Brooks doesn't do. He avoids unscripted interviews. He's never appeared on a podcast. When Joe Rogan publicly invited him to appear and defend himself against these theories, Brooks remained silent. Why would an innocent man refuse to address such serious allegations? Why retreat further into scripted, controlled media appearances? Even comedy podcasts like Your Mom's House have turned this into a running joke, with fans flooding Brooks' social media with comments like, "Where are the bodies, Garth?" The response? Continued silence. As I researched this story, consulting with psychiatrists and retired FBI agents, certain patterns emerged that are impossible to ignore. The Chris Gaines persona suggests someone capable of complete dissociation from reality. The land purchase suggests someone thinking long-term about disposal. The tour date correlation suggests opportunity. But here's the question that haunts me. In a world where we've learned that our most trusted figures, priests, coaches, celebrities, can harbor the darkest secrets, is it really so impossible to imagine? We want to believe that the man who sings about family values and American dreams is exactly who he appears to be. But what if that's exactly what makes the perfect predator? What if the greatest trick ever pulled wasn't convincing the world the devil doesn't exist, but convincing them he wears a cowboy hat and sings love songs? I'm not here to convict anyone. I'm not here to claim absolute truth. But I am here to ask the questions that others won't ask, to shine light into corners where others fear to look. Because if we've learned anything from true crime, it's this: the monsters among us rarely look like monsters at all. They look like neighbors, like teachers, like beloved celebrities who make us feel good about ourselves and our country. They look exactly like people we'd never suspect. So the next time you hear a Garth Brooks song on the radio, ask yourself, what secrets lie behind that smile? What shadows dance behind those bright stage lights? And remember, sometimes the most dangerous predators are those who hide in plain sight, protected by fame, fortune, and the love of millions who simply cannot or will not see the truth. Until next time, catch the dice. Stay rolling.